Tuesday with Tamika. Thank you guys so much for joining me for yet another episode of Tuesday with Tamika, where y'all already know what it is. We believe in lifting as we climb, turning our trials into treasures, living a life to inspire and not impress, opening up and allowing God to fully restore us, and loving as if we have never been hurt. I want to talk to a specific group of people today. I want to talk to the leaders in the room, the leaders that are listening. Now, listen, don't you click away because we are all assigned to lead someone. Whether you are a mother leading your children, whether you are a father leading your family, whether you are in a leadership role at work, we are all called to lead. Even if you're a teacher in the classroom, no matter what your title may be, we are all leaders. And not only are we leaders, we are champions. I believe that there is a conqueror and there is a champion in you. Despite what's going on around us, despite the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows that happen as you're in a position of leadership, you are truly called to lead. So today, because this is what I know for sure is leaders, we are definitely often the ones that are pulling people and pushing people and trying to get them to be and do and have everything that God has called them to be. Today, me and my guests, we want to give you that push. We want to pour into you. We want to remind you of the leader that is within you and the champion that is within you. So without further ado, hey, Dr. David, you got a minute?
Hey, Tamika, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. Please tell the TWT family a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, well, I hail over here in Orlando, Florida, by way of New York City. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in a place called Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm
Okay,
sure
come
you,
on.
yeah, I'm sure your audience have heard of Bed-Stuy because it's the home of Biggie and Jay-Z and Chris Rock and Lenny Kravitz, and it's where I grew up. And I could just let me just throw this out right quick. Bed-Stuy had a tagline. It was known as "Do or Die Bed-Stuy,"
Okay.
and yeah, and so it was a tough upbringing, but yet with determination and drive, you grow up. I became a educator in New York City for about 30 years. I was also a pastor in New York City preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then I even refereed NCAA Division One basketball. So I've lived a full life, and now I am a motivational speaker going around the country motivating and empowering people to live with a champion's mindset.
I love that. Well, with all of those titles, you definitely are the man for the job to be able to inspire the champion within. Before we get into this podcast, I have one question for you, Dr. David, and I,
Sure.
I really hope you answer this question right. Because even though I'm from the West Coast, even
Okay.
though I'm from Cali,
Uh-huh.
I need to ask, are you a Giants fan?
Well, I don't know what the correct answer would be that you're expecting, but the answer to that is no.
What?
Yeah, no, no, no. To be honest, because of the life that I live, as I said earlier, I refereed 25 years NCAA Division One basketball. I spent a lifetime being the neutral person. Don't
Ah,
have a team.
okay.
Trying to be fair and adjudicate the rules with fairness to both sides. So I never gravitated to a team. I like a few teams. I like a few players, but I'm not that diehard fan about any team. So when they ask what team you on, I'm on the team that got the stripes.
Okay, I heard that. That good answer, good answer, as Steve Harvey would say, right?
Yes. Uh huh.
Well, that really your answer to that because I am a Giants fan. Don't
Okay.
ask me how all the way from California. We're Knicks fans and we are Giants fans out here. My
Wow.
dad raised us that way. So I
Okay.
think out of all my siblings, I'm still holding true to that. But one thing that you said is the fairness and really equality, right? And I think
Yes.
that that is a great characteristic of a leader. So, in your field of education, as a minister of the gospel, as a referee, how does equality play a part in us being a champion, in us being a leader?
Yeah, well, leaders really have to lead with a sense of fairness, integrity. First of all, understanding that people you lead, they are not all the same,
Mm,
and you really can't completely handle everyone the same way. You
mm,
have to know people's weaknesses. You have to know people's strengths. You have to know who you might have to be forceful with. Sometimes you got to kick somebody in the butt, as they used to say, to get them motivated. And then some people have their own self motivation. So you may not have to handle them as much or oversee them as much. So fairness and equity means understanding individual strengths, weaknesses, proclivities, mindsets of the people you're leading, and work with them from the perspective of understanding who they are and leading from that perspective. Although everyone has to follow certain rules, right? You can't allow, one person to come in 30 minutes late and someone has to be on time. You can't allow that. But I just think that there's an engagement, and with wisdom, you learn how to work with people fairly, understanding, as I said, who they are, how they're motivated. And I think that's the best way to stimulate people to be successful.
I love that answer. Do you think, or in your experience, does that translate into your speaking? So, for example, y- there are it when you jump into the speaking arena, they tell you
Mhm.
to find your niche, right? And to niche
Yes.
down and to kind of only speak to that. But is that 100% possible, or do you have to be um, adaptable and being able to show equality even as you're a speaker on the speaker circuit?
Yeah, well, I heard the same thing. That the old philosophy is the riches are in the niches. Narrowing down who is your target audience and going after them. And I do agree with that to a degree. Um, I don't necessarily have a target audience. What I try to focus on, my target are people with a similar mindset.
Mhm.
That's my target. So it could be men, it could be women, it could be youth. The mindset of wanting to be a champion, the mindset of winning, the mindset of wanting to develop yourself professionally, the mindset just to be want to be better today than you were yesterday, and then focusing on being better tomorrow. I'm looking for that person to encourage and to motivate and inspire and empower. So
Mhm.
yes, there you do need to have niches, as they say, or niche, but I believe it's more, my niche is more of a mindset. I'm looking for people that have that same mindset that I have, and that's who I target. Because as I said, I go into schools and talk. I go into churches and talk. I will talk to athletes, because everybody really wants to be a champion, and I
Mhm.
and I believe God sent us here to be a champion. And here's what I know, Tamika: there are three people that wear crown. That's kings, queens, and champions.
Yes. That's good. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
And everybody wants to wear a crown. Listen, even when we get to heaven, what is he going to give us? He's going to give us a crown. And that crown indicates you won.
Yeah. I that is so powerful. Me and my husband were having a conversation about, we grew up in the 80s. And so there was a
Yes,
different mindset. There was for
sure.
sure a different mindset. We are, first generation latchkey kids. Our parents was out working. You had to come home. You had to figure it out. You had to figure out
That's
how you
right.
were gonna eat, so we have like this now. And then me and my husband are both from, the hood, like from Bed-Stuy, where it's like you gotta
Figured
walk
out.
walk in, yeah, all of
Yeah.
that. And so there is a different mindset that I believe has caused us to really want that crown and to be champions, and it's innate, right? I
Hmm.
feel like this generation, and I am not one. Maybe I am crossing over to the age where I'm like this generation, but I do feel like there is a lack. of championship, like in folks, and it takes a little bit more for the younger generation to pull it out of them. What are some characteristics, and even for my audience that are maybe mothers that want to pull the champion out of their children, how do we do that? How do you identify the champion? And is it only those people that come from the gutter, that come from, or can you have a more affluent background and still have that champion and that drive within you?
Realistically speaking, a lot of times, hard times and challenges is really the thing that's going to make people more, uh, I won't say better, but there's a greater reward when there's a great struggle. And
Mm,
that's just a fact. That's just a fact. And I think that many of us who came up during the time of struggling and, like you say, latchkey kids and having to, go to school, come home, get into the house, feed yourself, all those different things were teaching lessons and challenging lessons that taught us how to survive. And yes, I've said this recently. One of the even though it's a positive in one sense, it's a negative in another. This is the example. When our parents were coming up, because they didn't have a lot, we had to sometimes maybe get a little job or something to help
mhm.
make ends meet, right, in the home. But most of us today are doing pretty well, so our children don't need to help to support the house financially. So
Yeah.
they're not going to have the same kind of insights or creativity because a lot of things are just given to them and handed to them. There are a lot of wealthy people who struggle to be wealthy, but they won't give their children a free pass because
Mm,
they don't want their children to they want their children to understand that they had to work hard to get what they have. It took dedication and drive and determination, and they don't want to give the child a free pass to wealth because they haven't learned anything. So,
mhm.
yes, I'm not going to say you have to go through it, but there is a value in going through certain challenges because I do find that it can take you to higher heights the greater the challenge.
I definitely agree. And what about and because it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because we
Yeah.
had these challenges, now give our kids, and our kids don't have to really have the same challenges. But how do we? I do believe, especially if you're a believer, just because of the spirit that dwells within us, there's a champion already in you. So how
Yes.
do we identify that champion, and what are some things that a parent, a coach, a leader can do to nurture that? Or is it something that's just innate and the person has to have the right mindset and the right desire to want to be that champion? Or can you be someone that pushes that out of someone?
Yeah. Well, I believe that everyone has the capability and the capacity to be a champion. Here's why. I believe God has sent everyone here fully equipped to win.
Mm,
But here's what happens. What people try to do, you ever heard someone says, "Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." And then they say, "I'm trying to discover it."
mhm,
Here's my argument. I think that when you are trying to discover who you are, and I'm talking about your gift now. We all
mm,
have a gift. And your gift is your superpower in one sense. The apostle Paul said, he says, I wish that everyone was like me. I think it's just in maybe in Corinthians. He says, I wish everyone was like me, but I realize that everyone has their own proper gift or their own perfect gift. And what he
mm,
was trying to say is a good friend of mine, Dr. Will Moreland, he identified that proper gift as what he calls your genius potential. So, in other
mm.
words, every person has their own unique genius. And when I use that word genius, I don't mean your intellect, like a Benjamin Banneker or a W.E.B. Du Bois. Those people were intellectual giants, right?
Mhm.
Or a Katherine Johnson, I believe her name, the woman who worked at NASA.
Right.
They had this intellectual genius. So we're not talking about that kind of genius, but your genius is your gift. It's your unique fingerprint that God has put in you for you to come here and to win. But you don't try to discover your gift because when you're trying to discover a gift, you go looking for it. And when
Mm,
you go looking for your gift, that means you're looking outside of you. And
yes.
you're gonna do hits and misses. You know, you're gonna hit this, you're gonna hit that, and you're just not going to find what you need. But really, what we need to do is discern our gift
Mm,
because our gift is on the inside of us. You
mhm,
know, it was a Howard Thurman who said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that." Because
mm,
what the world needs is for people to come alive. And so our gift is the thing that makes us come alive. It's the thing that we want to do more than anything. That is your assignment. If there's something that you do better than other people. If there's something that you do that people admire, if there's something that you do that causes other people's lives to change for the better, that is your gift. And you
mm,
need to nurture that gift. You need to I call it, put it into the preparation room. The preparation room is where you go in and you study and you work on it and you practice and you perfect the skill. I wrote a book and we'll talk about called The Champion's Mind. And
mhm.
in that first chapter, I talk about mastering your gift. I talk about David. You remember David in the Bible.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
everybody knows that David was anointed to be the king.
Mhm,
But David's first appearance at the palace had nothing to do with his kingship. It didn't come with pomp, it didn't come with circumstance. Like when you become a king, that's not the first thing that got him into the palace. What got David into the palace first was his gift
mm,
because King Saul had that problem and they needed somebody to come play the harp. And they said, "We know somebody. His name is David. He's an excellent musician. Go get him to bring him into the palace and let him play for the king." What David did when he came in, he played his harp. The king was better. What he did was he solved the king's problems. And that's
mm,
what our gift does. It solves other people's problems. So you want to know what your gift is? It's the very thing that solves other people's problems.
mm. That's so good. That's so good. I couldn't have said it better. You know, so often in this space of coaching and encouraging, women always ask me or say, you know, they're trying to figure out their purpose, and I'm like, just do what
It's
it's
in you.
already there. It's
Yeah.
already in you. Like all you have to do is do it. Here's what I know for sure, and I would like your take on this. A
Okay.
lot of times, the reason why people feel like, well, maybe I'm not in my purpose, or I still need to discover, is because actually they're in the waiting room. Sometimes it's not ready to like their gift is not ready to be presented. And so I've been teaching women how to wait well because
Hmm.
everyone has a gift, but sometimes it's just not time. It's just,
That's
I mean,
correct.
imagine if your child's birthday is in December and you give them a present in April, they're going to be like, "What?" Like, it doesn't make any sense to give them the gift at that time. But there is a way that we should wait well when it's time for our gift to be presented. I would love your take on how to wait well when you are trying to show people, like, I'm the champion. Because if we go back to David, before he went into the palace, he slew the bear, he slew the
That's right.
lion, he did all those things that we forget about. We just think about Goliath and then when he's in the palace, but we
That's
forget
right.
about how he was in the field tending the sheep and he was doing all of this work waiting for the perfect time for his gift to be presented. How do we wait well, Dr. David?
First of all, like, as I said, you have to discern the gift, right?
Mm,
You have to know that this the assignment that God has placed on your life. And then you have to say this to yourself: my time will come,
yeah.
right? But while you're waiting, you have to go, as I say, into the preparation room and work on your gift. See, the gift is waiting for the moment. See, God doesn't want you to have the moment and then you not be prepared for the moment.
Mm,
See, everything David did was he was prepared for the moment. He didn't get ready in the moment. He was preparing before the moment.
come
And
on.
sometimes, also I write in my book talking about isolation. You know,
Mm,
if I could use the professional athlete, let me use LeBron James. LeBron James doesn't get better in season. LeBron James gets better during the off season.
That's it.
When the crowd is not around, he goes into his preparation room, his training room. He works on his strength. He works on his skill set. He works on his footing. He works on his stamina. And then when he shows up during the season, he's prepared and he's
Yeah.
ready. We
Mhm.
have to take that as a spiritual guide that says, God has an assignment for me. I'm in my off season. And while I'm in my off season waiting, I'm preparing, I'm training, I'm getting it together. I'm
Mm.
studying. If it's preaching, I'm studying. If it's teaching, if it's dancing, I'm dancing. I'm practicing my dances because God is going to give me that time. And if we can get comfortable, as I'll say, comfortable in the silent time,
Mm.
comfortable in when there's no crowd around, comfortable with no one's telling me how good I am,
Mhm.
comfortable with the hard work and the struggle of preparation. If we can just get comfortable with that, when that time that God opens at that door, you'll be ready. When David got called to the palace, he didn't get ready when he got to the palace. He was already ready.
Yeah, yeah. What they say, stay ready so you ain't gotta get ready, right?
Yeah. And if I can add this too, because you talked about the lion and the bear, same thing with Goliath. Because
Mhm.
when he defeated Goliath, King Saul asked David, he said, "You can't go fight this guy. You're nothing but a youth, and he's been a warrior from his youth." And what was the first thing David said like after that? He said, "Listen, I fought the lion and the bear, and I handle them, and I'll do the same with this giant." What David did was he was rehearsing his previous victory.
Mhm,
See,
come
that's how you
on.
win. You got to
Yeah.
rehearse what God has already done for you. So when the next time the giant comes, you can remember what he brought you out of. And the old song says, if he did it before,
He'll
he'll
do
do
it
it again.
again. That's right. Oh man, that's so good. That is so good. Hey, 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 are you ready for an amazing business opportunity? Are you ready to break generational curses and build the wealth that you have prayed for? Well, listen, with Digital Boss Academy, we have hundreds of ebooks, planners, and templates that you can use and get personal resale rights. Yes, you heard that right. You can literally sell the products that are already done for you in your own digital store. Yes, every single one. Digital Boss Academy has products that lead to profit. It is your time to create legacy. It is your time to do it while inspiring others to do the same. Become the curse breaker you've been praying about. Click the link in the show notes to start your journey today. So many people know that there's something in them, Dr. David. They know it,
Yes,
they could sense it, they could feel it. And I do feel like even now, we're in this very special Kairos moment, if you will, where
yes,
God is like, there's this supernatural push and there's supernatural speed on the champion. So I
yes.
believe a book like yours could really help people propel that. One of the things that I was telling one of the ladies while you're in the waiting room, they always have magazines or they have something. You're not just sitting idle. You're doing
Right.
something while you're in the waiting room. They've already done checked your vitals, they've done all of that, and now they put some magazines or something so you can, stimulate your mind. Your book is
Uh-huh.
one of those things that will stimulate the mindset to get folks as they're in their waiting period or even as they're getting ready to be like, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready
Yes,
to go."
yes,
Tell
yes.
us more about your book.
Yeah, I'll hold up a copy if you don't mind.
Of
I know
course.
got one back there on the table, but this is the name of it. It's called The Champion's Mind: How to Defeat Giants and Win. And of
Yeah.
course, this book was inspired because of the biblical character David. When I was born, if I could just throw this in right quick, I was born in March of 1960. And in March of 1960, there were no sonograms. There were no gender reveal parties. My parents, my mother was expecting me, her second child. She didn't know my gender, but
Mm.
she said that my name was going to be Michael. She said, her and my dad said the boy's name was going to be Michael. My mother was so excited. She went around telling all of her friends, my boy's going to be named Michael. My boy's going to be named Michael. I think my mother thought I was going to be an angel. But no, but my mother comes to my grandma Martha. And when she says, Ma, if I have a second son, I have an older brother, Robert. She says, if I have a second son, we've decided to name him Michael. After hearing that news, my grandma Martha turns to my mother. She looks her directly in her eye and she says, his name is David.
Mhm.
Because in the Bible, David was a king, David killed Goliath, and David was a great man. And my grandson will be named David, and he will be a great man.
Yes.
Tamika, I love my grandmother because why? Because my grandmother saw me as a winner, an overcomer, and a champion.
Mm.
So I grew up being named David with the biblical character being my role model. And one day I decided to read about him, and I discovered that David was more than a giant slayer. He was a winner at whatever he did, he was a champion. And I came across this scripture called, it was 1 Samuel 16:18. And here's
Mm.
what they said in that scripture. This again, this is when King Saul had that evil spirit. They were looking for someone to play the harp. Someone said, I know someone, I've seen him myself. And here's what they said about David. They said, he's an excellent musician, he's brave, he's a warrior, he's well spoken, he's good looking, and God is with him. And when
Mm.
I read that, I said to myself, those 6 things about David were the principles and the characteristics that he had that caused him to be the champion. And
That's
in my
good.
book, The Champion's Mind, I wrote each chapter, I took each one of those points and wrote a chapter out of them. And
Wow.
of course, I start off with master your gift. I talk about being fearless. I talk about communication. I talk about character. And then I talk about a God presence. And I said, these were the things that made him the champion. And I write in that book, if people would follow those 6 steps about David, they will be a champion too. And if I can just say this, I've got a 7th chapter in my book. And the 7th chapter, because we're going to write about David, you got to tell the truth.
Mhm.
David had a moment
Mhm.
with a woman by the name of Bathsheba.
Mhm.
And in the 7th chapter, I call it the dark side.
Mm.
And in that chapter, I say the first 6 chapters are things you can do to build your champion life, right? But the 7th chapter, where I talk about the dark side, I'd say you can throw it all away because of that dark side that's in all of us.
Mm.
Everybody has a dark side. And if you don't deal with your dark side, you'll ruin your ministry, you'll ruin your marriage, you'll ruin your business because it comes to get the best of us. But you got to know that you have it. You got to know that it's real. You got to know how to deal with it. Otherwise, it'll just destroy everything that you did. So that's the champion's mind, how to defeat giants and
Mm.
win.
Deal with that dark side.
Oh
That's so
yeah.
good. One of the things I really love about David is he used what's in his hand. He didn't go searching for, they tried to present him with the armor of somebody else, and he's like,
King
this don't fit
Saul.
me, right? He's like, this don't fit
Yeah.
me. Like, this ain't for me. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people, as they are trying to develop their champion, as they are trying to discern their purpose and discern who they are, they want to do it like other people do. I'll be the first to admit, when I started speaking, I would study speakers and I would be like, okay, I need to say it like this and do it like this. And God, I don't care where now God has allowed me to perfect the gift, like you said. I think they say 10,000 hours of you practicing something is where you become kind of proficient at it. And so God has really helped me to where if I'm in a school, I'm not quoting scriptures. I'm quoting scriptures, but I'm not saying like Psalms 139 and 14.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, you
I
fearfully
understand.
and wonderfully made. They don't know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, but I
Sure.
know, and
Sure.
some of them in there know,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But a lot of times us practicing and us using what's already in us, because I would try to change and try to sound like other people and be like other people. But just like David, I think the key to really bringing out the champion in you is using what you have, your story, your background, your gender, your race, your ethnicity, your lifestyle. So often, I did a brunch this Saturday, and it was beautiful with a bunch of women there, and the best compliment that I get is when people tell me, "Man, you're so authentic. You're so transparent." Like, a champion is authentic.
That's
They're
right.
they're not afraid to sweat. They're not afraid to cry. They're not afraid to work hard. They're not afraid, and then to show other people as they're in there doing it. And Dr. David, you are definitely a champion of champions.
May I
I
say something about that?
Absolutely.
So, in my talk, I have a framework, the champion's mind, 3 steps to the framework. Make room for your gift, manage your fear, and here's the third one: maintain your advantage.
Mm.
And I use maintain your advantage to exactly what you were saying about what David did and what he used. King Saul, when David said, I'm going to go fight the giant, King Saul said, put on my armor and go fight the giant.
Mhm.
David put it on, and it was too heavy for him, too weighty. He hadn't tested it, and he took it off. What David was telling us is never go to war using other people's stuff.
Come on. Mhm.
David said, if I use that, I then will put myself at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
So I have to maintain the advantage that I have. For David, the advantage was the slingshot because he knew that. But what David was saying also, just like what you said, was he was using what he knew. He was doing what he was used to. He was using his experience, his background. And that is exactly how you said it, how we win in life. We don't win with someone else's story.
Mhm.
You will never win telling someone else's story, but you can win with your own story.
Mhm.
You win with your own experiences. No matter what your background is, no matter where you came from, you've already said it. I'm just reinforcing it. You can't change the life that has happened. But instead of using it or seeing it as a disadvantage in life, see it as an advantage.
That's right.
See it as, okay, I went through that, but now I'm going to use that to win. Because that experience that I had, somebody else didn't have it. You see what I'm saying? I didn't have a father. I'm just using this as an example. The person who didn't have a father, somebody would say, well, you're disadvantaged. You didn't have a father in your life. I say, no, use that for your advantage. Use
Mhm.
your experiences. Use what happened to you, good, bad, and indifferent. Use it to your advantage. Maintain the advantage that you have. And that is, my life is what it is, and I'm going to win with it just as it is.
Mm, so good, Dr. David. That's so good. One of the things that I say is what truly qualifies me. That's one of my openers, right? When
Hmm.
because whenever, especially when you're being introduced, they give you all the accolades and all of that. And I thank the host or whoever but I tell them what truly qualifies me is that divorce. What truly qualifies me
Yes.
is the teen parents and those things, right? Because those are what I know for sure is no matter where I speak, no matter what part of the country or the world, love and pain are
Mhm.
universal. And
That's
people want
right.
to feel they want to feel loved and they want you to validate their pain. And that's
Yeah.
what's in our hand because we all have experienced both of those two things. Dr. David, thank you so much for
Can I
sharing.
talk about my website and how people?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
Let us know how we can get in contact with
yeah.
you.
So my website is drwalkerspeaks.com, drwalkerspeaks.com. That's my website. On my website, there's a link if you want to buy my book, The Champion's Mind, How to Defeat Giants. You can get the book on there. And also, I got a free gift for everybody that goes there. I created this, what I call the Champion's Mind assessment tool. You just go to my website. download it, and join obviously my newsletter community. We'll send you the Champions Mind assessment tool. That's to help you to assess how you're doing, your successes. And in that, I use a quote by Nelson Mandela. He says, I never lose. Either
Mm,
I win or I learn.
mm.
See, champions don't lose. We win or we learn. So you can download that free assessment tool to assess how well you're becoming a champion. And I'm on all social media platforms at Dr. David M. Walker. That's Dr. David M. Walker on all social media platforms. Look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Yes, TWT family, we're going to have all of those links in the show notes. So as soon as you're done listening, go grab that assessment and share it with somebody. Also, make sure you go and purchase his book. Make sure you follow him on all his social media sites. I know that this information is going to be life changing. As I mentioned, we are in a very special time right now where God is doing suddenlies in the life of people that are ready to step into their own champion season. So make sure you go and follow Dr. David. Make sure you go grab that book. Share this podcast. Share it with your son that's in college. Share it with the mother that's in the kitchen that may be cooking right now. Share it with at least 3 people. Run over to Apple Podcasts and rate us. Give us those 5 stars so we
Yes.
can make sure that we push this up the algorithm and make sure that more people are listening. If you are watching or listening to us on us, what is that? YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like. I thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Tuesday with Tamika. Until next week, bye bye.